Dear students, today we are going to continue our talk about natural disasters. Open your books at page 24, exercise 1. Let's start with our vocabulary. You are going to talk about disasters, causes and consequences. Listen and say the types of disasters.
Rail accident, landslide, flood, factory explosion, road accident, plane crash, severe storm, environmental disaster, tsunami, earthquake, war, avalanche.
Now let's define which disasters are natural or influenced by man. Let's check. Rail accident influence, landslide natural, flood natural, factory explosion influenced, road accident influence, plane crash influence, severe freak storm natural, environmental disaster influence, tsunami natural, earthquake natural, war influence, and avalanche is natural. Now look at the pictures and say which can you see in them. First picture we can see war at the second, rail accident, flood in the third picture, and the last picture shows us the consequences of the earthquake. Now you are to answer which accident or disaster best matches each with the headlines. Let's check. Train collision injure 50. You will say number 1, rail accident. Violent tremors hit capital city. Number 10, it's earthquake. Oil split blackens coast. Number 8, environmental disaster. 20 survivors rescued from aircraft. Number 6, plane crash. Dangerous blast at chemical plant. Number 4, factory explosion. City center buildings damaged by hurricane. Number 7, severe freak storm. Rising river waters close road. Number 3, flood. And the last, side of mountain collapses onto homes. Number 2, landslide. Now let's remember our vocabulary. Write down the unknown words. Listen and repeat.
Avalanche,
Dam. Emergency team.
environmental disaster, evacuate, factory explosion, flood, freak storm,
landslide,
mudslide,
plane crash, rail accident,
Burst its banks.
road accident, severe storm, tsunami, war.
Now, exercise 2. You are to listen to some people describing the disasters in the pictures. Match the descriptions to the disasters.
A. I can see 5 soldiers. They are wearing army clothes. They are all wearing gloves and hats. 4 of them are looking through binoculars, and 1 person is writing on a piece of paper. There is a vehicle behind them. I think it is a tank. B. There are a number of people walking along a raised walkway which runs along a flooded street. The people are wearing boots and pulling small suitcases along, so I think they're evacuating from a flooded town. Along the side of the street, there are shops, but they are partly under the water. C. There is a rescue worker and a search and rescue dog. They are in a collapsed building. I can see broken concrete walls. The dog is looking into an area which has collapsed, and maybe it can smell a person trapped there. The man is wearing safety gear. He is wearing blue overalls and a hard hat with a light on it. D. There is a large train engine. It is black with a red front with the letters SP in white. It has come off the tracks, but it hasn't fallen over. There are 2 men by the side of the tracks in yellow jackets. I think they are discussing what to do.
Now you are to choose a picture and describe it in as much detail as possible. Listen to the models.
In picture 1, I can see 5 soldiers. They are wearing army clothes. They are all wearing gloves and hats. 4 of them are looking through binoculars, and 1 person is writing on a piece of paper. There is a vehicle behind them. I think it is a tank.
In picture 2, there is a large train engine. It is black with a red front, with the letters SP in white. It has come off the tracks, but it hasn't fallen over. There are 2 men by the side of the tracks. I think they are discussing what to do.
In picture 3, there are a number of people walking along a raised walkway which runs along a flooded street. The people are wearing boots and pulling small suitcases along, so I think they are being evacuated from a flooded town. Along the side of the street, there are shops, but they are partly under the water.
In picture 4, there is a rescue worker and a search and rescue dog. They are in a collapsed building. I can see broken concrete walls. The dog is looking into an area which has collapsed, and maybe it can smell a person trapped there. The man is wearing safety gear. He is wearing blue coveralls and a hard hat with a light on it.
In exercise 3, you are to read through the text quickly and say what it is about.
The text is about floods in Kazakhstan.
Now let's watch video.
Water, water everywhere. Kazakhstan has been hit by major flooding over the last decade. More than 7,000 people were evacuated from their homes in April 2017. There were also significant floods in 2010, 2014, and 2015. Kazakhstan's location, combined with its climate, means it has a lot of snowfall in winter and sunshine in the summer. It is the melting of the winter snowfall caused by sharp increases in temperature or heavy rain that is the cause of the recurring floods. Sometimes extremes of weather, such as heat waves, can lead to disasters such as mudslides. The areas most commonly affected by flooding in Kazakhstan are those close to the country's rivers and lakes. The flooding in Kazakhstan has caused a lot of injuries to people and loss of livestock. In addition, many residential areas and people's homes have been damaged by floodwaters. In fact, to repair the roads, bridges, power lines and buildings cost billions of tenge. There are now some solutions to help the people of Kazakhstan deal with floods. For example, after floods in 2010, they built a dam in order to stop floods in Kazakhstan's capital city when the river Ishim bursts its banks. During floods, emergency teams save thousands of livestock by moving them to higher ground away from floodwaters. All of these efforts help to protect the people of Kazakhstan from the devastation caused by this natural disaster.
And exercise 4. You are to read the text again. 5 sentences are missing. Match the sentences to the gaps. And be attentive, there is 1 extra sentence. Let's check. Number 1. It's D. However, it was not the first time that Kazakhstan has been affected by flooding. Number 2. A. In Kazakhstan, flooding is common. Number 3. B. The areas most commonly affected by flooding in Kazakhstan are those close to the country's rivers and lakes. Number 4. F. all of the damage was extremely expensive to repair. And the last, fifth, C. Moreover, some areas use pump to pump water away from homes and public buildings. In exercise 5, you are to fill in the words. You are used the completed phrases to talk about flooding in Kazakhstan as it is done in the model. For example, it is done in the following way. Moving floodwaters, heavy rain, emergency team, and you will finish this exercise yourselves.
Heavy rain and extreme weather causes recurring floods in Kazakhstan. Flood damage and moving floodwaters have affected residential areas, power lines, and public buildings.
In exercise 6, you are to choose the correct items. Now we are working with prepositions and prepositional phrases. Winter snowfalls melting led to the river bursting its banks. The people who live close to rivers and lakes are more likely to experience floods. The flood barriers protected their home from floodwaters. Natural disasters are responsible for the loss of lives and homes. The emergency teams dealt with floodwaters by using a pump. Now you are to use these prepositions and phrases to make sentences about the natural disasters. Listen to the models.
The war led to a huge loss of life.
People who live close to snowy mountains are more likely to experience avalanches.
The shutters protect their home from storm damage.
Wars and natural disasters are responsible for a huge loss of life.
They dealt with the livestock by moving them to higher ground during the flood.
Now let's get an experience of giving bad news and reacting. Use the headlines on the right and the language in the box to make exchanges. You will using such expressions as did you hear, there's been, did you see, hear about, there, on the news, have you heard, guess what happened, you'll never guess what's happened, look at this, and reaction. It's awful, isn't it? Oh no, that's awful, terrible, really, how horrible. I don't believe it, that's so sad, depressing, and etc. Listen to the examples.
You'll never guess what's happened. Violent tremors have hit the capital city.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Did you see the news? There's been an oil spill off the coast.
That's so depressing.
Did you hear? There's been an aircraft crash and only 20 people survived.
I don't believe it.
Have you heard? There was a dangerous blast at a chemical plant.
Really? How horrible.
Guess what happened? Some buildings in the city centre were damaged by a hurricane.
I don't believe it.
Look at this. Rising river waters have closed roads.
It's awful, isn't it?
Did you hear about the side of a mountain that collapsed onto some homes?
Oh no, that's awful.
Did you hear? There's been a major train crash and 50 people have been injured.
It's awful, isn't it?
In exercise 8, listening, you'll hear a radio news report, and for questions, you will tick true or false.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchtime News, bringing you all the latest national and international headlines. There's been a major train crash on the South Haven to Beverley line. The accident happened during the morning rush hour when the light system failed and two passenger trains collided. The ambulance service and police are now on the scene. Over 40 people have been seriously injured, but luckily no one was killed. The government has ordered an official inquiry to find out why the light system failed. Other news: the River Thames burst its banks in the early hours of this morning, causing a massive flooding in the town of Richmond. The flooding is the result of a night of severe storms and heavy rain. Local residents woke up to find water pouring into their homes. Emergency services are now working to evacuate residents who are still trapped in their homes. The mayor said that it was the worst flood the town had ever seen, and the cost of repairs could reach well over £1 million.
For example, the train crash happened at a lunchtime. It is false because it was told that it happened in the morning. Finish this exercise. Now imagine you work for the emergency service, for example in police ambulance. How do you help the people affected by a flood? Offer solutions. Listen to the model.
I would call out the Coast Guard to rescue people from their homes where the streets are flooded.
Good idea. I think we should also take food and fresh water to people who are safe, but unable to leave their homes due to the floodwaters.
Yes, I agree. Also, we should set up a rescue centre for people who have been made homeless, as well as a shelter where they can sleep and get a hot meal.
And exercise 9. You are to choose a disaster which was in the news last month. Prepare a short news report for the local TV station. Talk about place, date, event, what happened. Listen to the model and prepare your own one.
Between the 30th of August and the 16th of September 2017, a massive hurricane caused catastrophic damage in the Caribbean and the Florida Keys. Hurricane Irma was a Category 5 hurricane and one of the most destructive in U.S. history. Winds of 295 kilometers per hour swept through the Atlantic, causing widespread damage and considerable loss of life. The president said, "Everything possible will be done to help survivors rebuild their communities."